Uh, First of all, there will be a QR code on this few slides. If you can try to scan it or enter the browser using this URL. I know it's stupid, but who cares? It's short. My name is Piotr Stapp. I have a lot of roles before. I have even 2 Masters of Science. By night, I'm Microsoft MVP, but not in Azure. So I can say everything in Azure is bad. I'm in development technologies, so I'm the good guy, you know. Black ID, no cloud, and so on. By day, I'm a person somewhere here on the safe diagram. I'm principal, safe, system architect, whatever. There's no user here. But I learned something about agile methodologies and architecture. We should make a decision together. It's the best option ever. So, the main question is not about me, but about you, because today I will be the listener, and you will try to vote. And I will try to explain your votes too.
So Piotr, come back. If you can give us a minute, or we've already copied that link.
There's a QR code still. The first question is, who you think about yourself? Are you an engineer? Are you an ex-engineer? Maybe you are a team leader? Someone on C-level? I present myself as a cleaner. I usually clean stuff. There's a mess. I came and I clean stuff. I hope most of you are here. Okay, so most of you are engineers. That's great. You have the knowledge. The rest probably, of course they have, sorry. Anyway, I will make one more slide because we need to choose a cloud. If you are on this page, probably the question will just switch off, so you can make just, okay? There's a lot of AWS, Azure. That's maybe, okay, so the results from the cloud are quite perfect. Don't worry. But to be... How the business people, you know, but don't worry. I'm really happy that you are not from Azure, because you are, let's say, you have a lot of experience. I will try to explain something, and you will make a decision. You don't have to deep know, let's say, the word. Anyway, our amazing project for today, so our context. Let's try to build a system for, let's say, voting quizzes in, let's say, League of Champions. Yeah, so big football teams, a lot of rumble, a lot of people, a lot of spikes. The numbers, yeah, between, I don't know, 5,000 to 500,000 sessions. Wembley Stadium is 90,000 of people, so a lot of people. A few very, very important live sessions like contest finals, yeah, or a huge match or whatever. Peak usage, so. And of course, money, as always, is important. When we think about architecture, we are thinking about building houses, yeah. That's the way how we should think. But in IT, maybe I don't like Uncle Bob Martin very much, but still have a really good statement about architecture. So the purpose of architecture is the minimalization of manpower for development, deployment, and maintenance. Do you mean something? I mean money. Yeah, in cloud, we are thinking about money almost all the time. People, infrastructure, code, and so on. There are some questions around the internet, so this one is in Polish. What should I do as a developer, as an engineer? Should I learn cloud? Yes, no? It depends, of course, but probably yes. So my to-do list, let's say, as a huge architect, I'm thinking about hosting database, user data, so accounts, password, resetting passwords, and so on and so on. using single-page application or maybe not. That's always a question. Manpower, of course, too. So, software decision first. Let's try to make another question. Should we use containers?
Yes. Sorry.
And Windows containers are the best, aren't they? OK. A lot of people say yes. Still, Windows containers can win. Please vote. Please remember your answer here. Just to be fair, in next questions, please remember your answer here. And now, second very important question, probably the most important one in your project. Which JavaScript framework is the best? Oh my God, too many infrastructure engineers here. Hello, you need to have an opinion. OK. Sorry. But server-side only? Yeah, server-side only? PHP? OK, doesn't matter. That was a simple job. OK, let's start with user data storage, or to be fair, accounts and passwords. Where we should store them for such project. In old days, really old days, the recipe is quite simple. Take one technology that you need, you love. Apply the first tutorial from the internet about user accounts, copy some stuff from the previous project, and you are done. In my case, I'm from .NET. It will be a .NET framework. If I do exactly like that, probably I will avoid problems with the base 64, SQL injection. In PHP, Node, Java, and so on, more or less is similar. It's not so bad, but still, it's easy to make a mistake and, let's say, create a password leak process in the process reset. Seriously, base 64 is still a problem. The people think it's secure enough. But today, there's a totally incomplete list of the tools which you could use for storing accounts password. First of all, starting for, let's say, organization one, like Active Directory, Open LDAP, and so on. Solution ready to deploy, like Keycloak, Identity Server 4, and many more. Or some SaaSes like OutZero, Userbase, or Azure B2C. Probably a lot of more. So when we think about the candidates, we can split them to self-hosted. So my own NuGet with or Maven, NIP, whatever, with some support. Active Directory, which is probably not a good tool in such project, but maybe you think otherwise, because Active Directory can store, I don't know, how many thousands of users? A lot, billions of users. Yeah? Simple one server, under the shelf. Keycloak Identity Server, really industry standard, great tools, but self-hosted. Or you can use SaaS. For example, in Azure, it's outside Azure. The first one, OutZero, again, industry standard. SaaS inside Azure, like Azure B2C, or totally probably unknown for you, Userbase. I think, was anyone here who knows what Userbase is? Great, I choose the best one. But when we think about the SaaS features, there's a lot of things to think about. For example, social media integration like Facebook, Twitter, GitHub login, MFA with application or with SMS, Fido 2 maybe even, custom domain, custom CSS, and many more. Not all of them support such features, so think about it. Second thing is about money. When you think about OutZero, it costs, maybe I'll open this tab even. Let's check the links. There's a free plan. Oh my God, you can choose how many users. Let's see, 7,000, whatever. You see the prices. I don't want to make my own opinion. In the Azure B2C, we will have 50,000 monthly active users. That's MAU. Again, you have the price. in user base is simple. You will pay just $89 once. Okay, I hope you know almost everything. Sorry, not this part. So let's try to solve the question. What will you use? And what the technology will appear in Have I Been Pwned by Troy Hunt in the next few years? Which one? Okay. Azure B2C is winning. That's strange. Okay, so just one more question. Your decision was mostly affected by? Lucky guess. Great. Sounds good.
This is how we make strategic decisions, you know.
Sounds good. Okay. Hosting. I will give you some, again, totally incomplete list how you can host your solution inside Azure, but remember about your answer about containers, using containers and no containers. So, first of all, okay, maybe I will go with a few things. When you think about upfront and static cost, for example, we have Azure Web Application. That's a simple, let's say, IaaS or Apache server, which you can even use an FTP to upload your files. You don't need to know anything. If you ever use a server, it should work. There's, of course, Azure Storage with Azure CDN, which you probably want to have pay nothing upfront, and it's really cheap, but only for static content. Of course, you have Azure Functions, or if you prefer Lambdas from the AWS. We have Azure Signaler. That's a cool technology to push content onto user page. So instead of pulling, you can push from the server, whatever, plus the static page, plus probably something. Of course, virtual machine. Virtual machine is the best. Every single developer will start with the virtual machine because we know virtual machines quite well. And we have few things for containers. We have Azure Containers instances, which will cost you nothing, but they are quite expensive if you are trying to run them all the time. You could use Azure Kubernetes service. Of course, Kubernetes is the only way how we should host difficult application during these days, or maybe not. Azure Container Apps, which is a simplified Kubernetes, so you don't need to know YAMLs, but under the hood there's a Kubernetes, but instead of YAMLs, you have some bash statements to run the application. It's quite new. It's a new feature. So it's really good. Again, in Azure Web Application, instead of FTP file transfer protocol, you can use a container, even Docker Compose. Sounds great. And again, virtual machine to run Docker on it. Of course, the solution can scale up easy or not. No containers. You can quite easily scale Azure Web App. Just push the button auto scale or scale up. With Azure Storage, it's simple up to one point. Azure Functions, they scale by themselves, but quite slowly. Signaler, you don't have such options. Virtual machines, it depends, but probably you can add another one. With the containers, of course, Azure Containers instances, you can add another one, but it's not a we are scaling in Kubernetes, of course. There's a lot of stuff in Kubernetes to scale things. In Azure Container Apps, of course, too, because it's a Kubernetes, but without Kubernetes. Azure Web App, I mentioned before, and virtual machine we have before. Easy to scale down, that's another problem. Most of the system doesn't allow you to easy scale down. Scaling up, it's easy, but scaling down, it's not so good. So Azure Storage, yes, and Azure Functions, yes. The rest, not so well. Cost per request. So can we not pay upfront or for, let's say, our resources, but instead can we pay for requests or users or whatever? In Azure Storage, yes. In Azure Function, yes. In Azure Containers instances, yes. In Azure Container Apps, yes. Kubernetes, rather no. Web apps, totally no. Virtual machines, again, we pay for the machine. Dev experience, that's another important factor. Again, my personal opinion, Kubernetes, it doesn't have a good developer's experience until you are good in Kubernetes. It needs time. I know Kubernetes well, so I even teach Kubernetes, so I know that it doesn't have a really good developer's experience for beginners, but anyway, it's good enough. But the rest can have quite well. So I hope it's enough information for you. Let's try to do some voting. I will host my solution using, and that's important, more than one answer is possible in this question. A lot of serverless, a lot of Kubernetes. Kubernetes serverless, who will win? Oh my God. Oh. VM. Still fighting? Okay, I think it's all. Okay, I'm still waiting. Maybe. Okay, let's say it's all. This question is still active. So don't worry. Okay, I predicted the result. Anyway, each part will be quite strange for me. To be fair, I'm really surprised that few of you vote for virtual machine, a simple virtual machine. It doesn't, for example, from my perspective, it doesn't have a good developer's experience, but I see another way. I'm really surprised that there's a lot of votes around containers, but you voted for containers. So, whatever. Okay, so we have user database, we have hosting. Let's go with the database. There's one real true database in the world. And if you talk with the business guys, they will agree with this slide. Yeah? But small recap, usage won't be stable. There will be a usage peaks. A few days will have much more load than the rest of the month, year, whatever. So the conclusion, I hope you get some of them, we cannot predict what will happen, as always, but performance should be stable, but usage is a time function. So depends on the time period, the usage will change. And probably a lot of data will be static anyway. So we can imagine that it can be handled by some kind of cache. Of course, there's one very important question, to use SQL, or if you don't know how to use SQL, you use NoSQL. Yeah? SQL, no. But NoSQL is quite old technology anyway. But let's go through the options. Of course, we can use a virtual machine with some self-hosted custom thing. We can use Azure Storage. It's a simple storage, simple, let's say, file database. Yeah, you just use a key and get the value. You use the file name and get the file. Very, very simple one. You can use Cosmos DB, the greatest database in Microsoft ecosystem. Really, really a good one with a lot of interfaces, native Mongo, GraphQL, and some are coming in the near future. Or you can use SQL as a service, for example, Microsoft SQL, of course, Postgres, MySQL, or MariaDB. if you think about custom stuff on the VMs, before you decide, you should know that why the pass option won't work for you. So why you will invest money in setting up your own stuff and how to manage it. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. If you think about Azure Storage, it's really, really simple. But if you read Have I Been Pwned blog by Piotr, you can read about amazing result in terms of money. 100 gigabytes of storage and 2 million hits cost $8 per month. But it's his solution, not ours. Azure SQL, manage database so you don't have to think about, I don't know, backups, scaling probably too, and so on, until you understand the pricing, which is totally complex one. Dynamic scaling, of course, works, but quite slowly, in terms of minutes, not seconds. Cosmos DB, great database, seriously great database with a few APIs like MongoDB, Gremlin, Cassandra Native, Table, and so on. Supports key value, column family, documents graph, but pricing is still quite complex because we have a standard autoscale and serverless. Moreover, there are some points where autoscale is the cheapest option. But you need to understand the pricing. Dynamic scalings work like smooth, seriously, milliseconds almost, but no relations at all. Of course, you can think about what about DB2? You can check IBM DB2 at Azure Virtual Machines DBMS. About Oracle, there are Oracle database service for Microsoft service anywhere almost on the virtual machines. About Redis, of course, very important database, quite very expensive Azure Cache for Redis. Of course, if you think about startups, not large companies with billions in the cloud. Why I'm talking about this database? Because there are almost the 10 or 20 most popular ones, and I would like you to look on the point number 9.
Where is Excel? Where is Excel?
There's no Excel here. That's the main problem. So once again, self-hosted custom, Azure Storage, Cosmos DB, SQL, and the voting starts now. A lot of, okay. SQL or Cosmos? Let's rumble. Okay. I will go. Still, the question is active. But there are also a few small things which we probably should consider. First of all, there are, let's say, good rules how to make your service quite smooth from the HTTP perspective. It's 14 rules by Steve Soundwell, quite old list. There are other small things like HTTP or even HTTP3, SSL certificate, first contained with paint, CDN or with some other options, and some other points for the things. For example, we can use Cloudflare for that. We can use a Cloudflare for that. We will have a lot of stuff inside the free plan from this list. Moreover, it will support, let's say, some kind of CDN, DDoS, SSL, WAF, image optimization, and even, oh my God, AMP, it's mobile pages, accelerated mobile pages. If we think about Cloudflare versus Azure native stuff, the costs are more or less like that. I don't have an opinion. I'm just an architect. I should have an opinion, but today you are the architects. So look on this list. and make a decision. So you can choose Cloudflare, you can choose built-in Azure services like Frontdoor. You don't need it at all, or you can set up something, of course, something your own, like VM with more security. But there's a hidden cost. I probably should say this before, but if you add something to your infrastructure, it's more difficult to manage. Yeah, I hope you know about it, but still you already voted, so who cares? Anyway, that's the end. Let's check our amazing design. And now my role will be important. So, most of you are the guys who know how to do stuff in the cloud. Oh. Your favorite cloud is Azure, and this slide is fake. You think we should use containers. So, and some of you even think that Windows containers are the best. You don't know anything about the front end, sorry.
All the backend.
When you think about the user data storage, a lot of you choose to use some kind of SaaS. I'm really amazed, sorry, not amazed. I'm really amazed about the last position. You choose totally unknown SaaS for one of the most important data in your system, but let's go with that. Most of your guesses were lucky guesses, so I probably should go back to the an engineer slide. But don't worry. You know, when you will go up in the ladder in your company and you will become an architect, that's a really good option, because you don't understand technology at all. But when you are an engineer, it's not the best option. Yeah, but still. Anyway, you decide to use a lot of stuff with containers. So I assume that you think about microservices, scaling, and so on and so on. And a lot of you think about Azure Container Apps, a shiny new tool from Microsoft. You didn't test it, but let's go with that. About this database, SQL, probably Postgres. That's really a good option. If we want to be a cloud native, from my personal opinion, if you choose Postgres, you can host it almost anywhere today, from the edge cloud to on-premise. Really, I understand that. But still, if you want to have something scalable, you go with the native solution. Very good choice. About small things, you added Cloudflare, and we have our amazing solution. Now, let's stop talking, open your notebooks, and start coding. Or go to the teams and tell them what they should do. And that's the end for today. I won't give you any more answers. Now it's your part to make this decision in your life. Thank you very much.